Have you ever judged a stranger in public? Like,
Oh, absolutely. We all do it.
right, you immediately write this whole complex backstory for them in your head. But then you realize later that your judgment actually revealed a whole lot more about your own internal state than it did about them.
That is such a universal human experience.
It really is. And welcome to the Simplified Summary YouTube channel, by the way.
Yes, welcome.
Today we are exploring the hidden depths of human nature through classic literature. And if you find yourself captivated by the psychology of everyday life, please hit that subscribe button.
Smash the like button, too.
Yes, exactly. And drop your valuable comments below. Your support is literally the engine that drives our mission to bring these incredible stories to life.
And we read every single comment to see what literary explorations you want us to do next.
We do. So today, we are diving into a razor-sharp short story called Manovritti.
Which translates from Hindi roughly to mentality or attitude.
Right. Written by the legendary Munshi Premchand, taken directly from his famous Mansarovar collection.
And you know, Premchand is traditionally celebrated as the Upanyas Samrat.
Right, the emperor of Hindi novels.
Exactly. He's famous for his sweeping social realism and his documentation of rural Indian struggles under colonialism and feudalism.
Yeah, that's what everyone knows him for.
Right. But our mission for this deep dive is to examine a very different side of his genius. We're looking at his acute grasp of human psychology.
Which is just brilliant in this piece.
It really is. He sets up this highly specific, contained scenario to demonstrate how a completely passive individual can act as a psychological mirror.
A blank canvas, basically.
Exactly. We are going to examine how this one unconscious character perfectly reflects the unacknowledged desires, generational anxieties, and ingrained prejudices of the society walking past her.
Okay, let's unpack this setup. Paint the picture of this inciting incident for us. What exactly is happening in this park?
So it is a crisp October morning. The sun is just starting to climb, warming the air. And in the middle of a public park, a young woman is sound asleep on a bench.
Just sleeping.
Just sleeping. That is the entirety of the action she takes in the narrative. She is unconscious, silent, and entirely unprovocative.
Right.
The narrative tension is built entirely around the passersby.
Because normal human empathy might suggest, checking if an unconscious person in a park needs medical assistance.
You would think so. But the first encounter involves these two older male friends who are out for their morning walk, and they take a remarkably different psychological detour.
Yeah, rather than concern, they seem to fall into this bizarre state of intimidation mixed with completely inappropriate desire.
Oh, completely.
How does Premchand reveal their internal state through their dialogue?
The source text gives us this fascinating look at their cognitive dissonance. One of the men openly confesses that his old heart gets weak just looking at her. Yeah, he is captivated, but simultaneously terrified. He articulates a really specific fear. He is scared she might suddenly wake up, catch them staring, and think poorly of them.
So he's intimidated.
Profoundly intimidated. Her youth acts as this harsh spotlight on his own aging reality. It forces them into a rather tragicomic existential spiral right there on the walking path.
It is so funny because they immediately start lamenting their failing bodies and discussing historical rejuvenation cures.
Right.
The text mentions Akosa and Chandrodaya. Those aren't exactly household names today. What were these men actually grasping at?
So those are references to traditional Ayurvedic and Unani medicinal formulations.
Okay.
Chandrodaya, for instance, is a classical, highly potent mineral and herbal formulation. It often contains purified mercury and sulfur, and it was traditionally prescribed by Vaidyas for profound fatigue, vitality loss, and sexual dysfunction.
I see.
And Akosa falls into a similar category of historical, localized remedies aimed at restoring virility.
Which this guy has apparently tried.
Oh, yeah. The man complaining about them says he has spent fortunes on these cures. He dismisses them all as elaborate scams designed by doctors to empty the pockets of desperate, aging men.
But the desperation really peaks when the conversation shifts from local herbal remedies to something much more drastic. They bring up monkey glands.
Yes.
Which sounds like a total punchline today, but it was a legitimate global phenomenon at the time, right?
It was the defining medical fad of the 1920s and early 30s.
Unbelievable.
It was spearheaded by a French-Russian surgeon named Serge Voronov. He was performing xenotransplantation.
Meaning grafting animal tissue onto humans.
Specifically, grafting testicular tissue from monkeys onto human men. He claimed it would reverse the aging process, cure senility, and restore youthful sex drive.
And people actually paid for this.
It was incredibly expensive and highly publicized worldwide. Premchand dropping this specific reference grounds the story in the global anxieties of the era.
That is such a great detail.
Yeah, and one of the men makes the argument that there is more revitalizing energy in a single smile or embrace from the sleeping young woman than in 100 expensive monkey gland grafts.
Which leads to a moment of just brilliant, absurd dialogue. They begin negotiating a hypothetical transaction. One man tells his friend that if he can arrange a marriage for him with this sleeping stranger, he will undergo the monkey gland treatment to be useful for her.
It's pure fantasy. And the friend's response lays bare the casual objectification inherent in their mindset.
Yeah, what does he say?
He tells his companion that he would require a share of the deal for arranging it.
A share.
Yes. His condition is that he gets visiting rights to the house simply to gaze at the young woman and cool his eyes.
To cool his eyes. Just to look at her.
Exactly. And the first man instantly flares up with territorial jealousy. He declares that if the friend came with that intention, they would be mortal enemies.
So they're constructing this elaborate fiction. A marriage, an invasive medical procedure, a bitter feud over infidelity, all revolving around a woman who is merely trying to get some rest.
It's the absolute absurdity of the male gaze unchecked. But the fantasy crumbles pretty quickly.
Right. The friend pokes a hole in this elaborate daydream by bringing up a very grounded, humiliating reality involving the first man's son, Yashwant.
Right. The friend points out that there had already been talks of marriage for the older man, and the man is forced to confess the humiliating truth of his domestic life.
Which is that his son is completely against it.
Violently opposed. Yashwant is violently opposed to his father remarrying in his old age. The power dynamic in the family has shifted so much that Yashwant has actually threatened his father with a gun over these desires.
With a gun?
Yeah. So the patriarchal authority the old man assumes he holds in the public square is entirely hollow in his own home.
Wow. And as the October heat begins to rise, the reality of his powerlessness sets in.
And the two men scurry away.
Leaving the sleeping woman exactly as she was.
Still just sleeping.
Which acts as a perfect transition point for Premchand to shift the lens from the male gaze to a completely different demographic. A motor car pulls up to the park.
Right.
And two women step out for a stroll. We have an older woman referred to as Beiji and a younger woman named Meenu.
What's fascinating here is how the exact same blank canvas elicits a radically different projection.
Totally different.
The term Beiji is an honorific, usually signifying an older, respectable matriarch deeply entrenched in the traditional social hierarchy.
So where the old men felt inappropriate desire, Beiji feels instant burning outrage.
She takes one look at the sleeping girl and labels her shameless. She explicitly states that she looks like a prostitute.
Okay, playing devil's advocate for a moment here. In the context of 1930s India, wouldn't a young woman sleeping unchaperoned in a public park genuinely be a shocking anomaly to someone of Beiji's generation?
Sure.
Isn't she just reacting to a violation of the social contract she relies on for her own status?
That is the crucial nuance. Beiji's reaction is entirely a defense mechanism. Think about it. In a strictly patriarchal society, a woman's safety, status, and respectability are entirely contingent upon her adherence to rigid codes of modesty.
Right, the rules of invisibility.
Exactly. Beiji has spent her entire life playing by those punishing rules to secure her position as a respected elder.
She survived the system by conforming.
Precisely. So seeing a young woman flout those rules so casually is deeply threatening to her worldview. Beiji argues that even if the girl is a prostitute, she has no right to shame womanhood in the public sphere.
She even launches into a full moral panic about the changing times. The source text has her complaining bitterly about modern women.
Oh, she goes off.
She specifically cites girls smoking cigarettes and wearing what she calls half-jumpers.
And the half-jumper is a vital sartorial detail here.
What exactly was a half-jumper in that context?
In colonial India, clothing was heavily politicized. A half-jumper essentially refers to a modern, perhaps sleeveless or fitted upper garment. It signified a departure from traditional drapes that maximized physical concealment. To Beiji, these fashion choices and behaviors like smoking represent the terrifying erosion of the boundaries she sacrificed her own freedom to uphold.
That makes a lot of sense.
She explicitly states that it is this exact kind of public shamelessness that provides men with the justification to deny women their freedom.
Which is essentially victim-blaming an entire gender.
Right.
She's arguing that the presence of one liberated woman is the reason systemic oppression exists. It is a profound display of internalized misogyny.
It is the Jungian shadow externalized. Beiji projects her own repressed resentment about her lack of freedom onto this girl. She has absorbed the rules of her oppressors so thoroughly that she operates as their most vocal enforcer.
But Premchand introduces friction here through the younger companion, Meenu.
Meenu is the voice of reason. She looks at the girl, assesses her appearance objectively, and notes that she actually seems to come from a respectable family.
And then she delivers this really sharp philosophical counter-argument to Beiji's outrage.
Yeah.
Meenu poses a phenomenal question. She asks why women should bear the sole burden of worrying about male attraction. She asks, quite literally, why don't men veil themselves?
I love that line. That single question dismantles the entire architectural logic of Beiji's worldview.
Because if the male gaze is the source of the societal disruption, why is the solution to police women's bodies rather than men's behavior?
It completely exposes the double standard.
Yeah.
Of course, Beiji has no interest in debating the sociology of gender dynamics.
No, she pulls rank.
She orders Meenu to go wake the girl up and tell her to go sleep in her own home. She is desperate to scrub this offensive anomaly from her field of vision.
The tension here is brilliant because Premchand has spent the entire narrative building this sleeping woman into a towering symbol.
Right.
To the men, she was the ultimate femme fatale, holding the secret to lost youth.
And to the matriarch, she was a scandalous rebel, destroying the fabric of traditional womanhood.
Exactly. So Meenu walks over, shakes her by the shoulder, and tells her the day is advanced and she needs to go home.
And the woman wakes up. And in her very first waking moment, she entirely shatters the complex mythologies that have been constructed around her.
She rubs her eyes, completely disoriented, and asks, "Oh, is it so late? Did I fall asleep?"
That's it.
The utter mundanity of her response is the punchline. She wasn't making a political statement against the patriarchy. She wasn't an intentional object of seduction.
She was simply exhausted. Beiji had noted earlier that the previous night was exceptionally hot.
Right.
The most logical reality is that the girl sought out the park for a cool breeze because her house was stifling and simply passed out from fatigue.
So what does this all mean? The narrative is humorous, but the title, Premchand chose Manovritti, or mentality signals. We are dealing with a heavy psychological critique.
We are looking at a literary masterclass in the psychological concept of transference and projection.
Break that down for us.
In psychoanalytic theory, humans defend themselves against unconscious impulses or deeply held anxieties by denying their existence internally.
And attributing them to external subjects.
Exactly. We put our own issues onto someone else.
And the sleeping woman functions as the perfect catalyst for this, because she provides zero behavioral data.
Precisely. She is a psychological void. The human brain's pattern-matching engine is fundamentally incapable of tolerating a lack of context.
So when presented with a blank slate, we are compelled to hallucinate a narrative to fill the vacuum.
The old men looked at the void and saw their own terror of mortality and unfulfilled lust. Beiji looked at the exact same void and saw her terror of obsolescence and her repressed anger at the patriarchy.
So the sleeping girl is never actually present in their minds.
No, not at all. She was merely the screen onto which they projected their own Manovritti.
It is a sobering realization regarding how heavily tinted our own lenses are. We operate under the delusion that we are objective observers of reality, gathering data about the strangers around us to make rational judgments.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the uncomfortable truth is that we are rarely observing reality at all. We are broadcasting our own historical baggage, our current mood, and our cognitive biases onto the people sharing our physical space.
It's like we're walking around in our own virtual reality.
We are. Premchand forces the reader to realize that every time we assign a motive to a stranger, like saying they are arrogant, or they are lazy, or they are seeking attention, we are almost exclusively telling on ourselves.
The story demands a high level of intellectual humility. It makes you want to reevaluate every snap judgment you've made on a subway car or in a grocery store aisle.
Definitely.
You realize you are just writing fan fiction about strangers using the raw materials of your own insecurities.
And that leads to a rather profound final thought for us to consider, especially given the technological era we inhabit today.
Right, because Premchand wrote this about a physical park in the 1930s.
But today, we carry the park in our pockets.
Oh, that's a great point.
Consider how modern social media algorithms are essentially massive automated projection engines. Every single day, your feed serves you digital sleeping women. 10-second clips of strangers completely stripped of context.
And the algorithm doesn't care who those people actually are.
Not at all. It serves them to you specifically to weaponize your Manovritti. It relies on your psychological need to fill the void with your own projections.
With your own outrage and your own biases.
Just to keep you engaged. So the next time you feel a surge of intense anger, judgment, or even infatuation toward a complete stranger on your screen, stop and ask yourself, what is this feeling actually revealing about my own mentality?
Are you seeing them, or has the algorithm just successfully triggered your own shadow?
Exactly.
That is a brilliant modern application of Premchand's genius. It completely changes how you view a scrolling session. Well, that brings us to the close of our analysis today.
It's been a great deep dive.
It really has. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Manovritti and the psychology of projection, please support the Simplified Summary channel. Hit subscribe, smash that like button, and share your thoughts in the comments.
Have you caught yourself projecting onto a blank slate recently? Let us know. We read every single comment.
Thank you for exploring the source material with us, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.